I spend millions of dollars on my own business. I screw up all the time. Before you ever spend a dollar in advertising, you need to have your entire pipeline understood, documented. That's what organic and PPC is. It's a ride that you're constantly on, and you're just figuring out what portion of the bell curve you're on the roller coaster.
Welcome to the DTC Insider podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Brian Roisentul.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the DTC Insider podcast. I'm Brian Roisentul, your host, and today I'm joined by the great founder of he founded multiple companies actually. His name is Josh Sprague, and he founded companies like Seven Clay, Orange Mud, and one more that we'll be telling you about in the episode. Hey, Josh, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I said that you started multiple companies. How many did you start?
Well, so I've started three. Yeah, I started the first one, Orange Mud, in January of 2012, and then Seven Clay in September of 2019, and then Anvil Acre I started in the beginning of last year, at least
Wow.
officially. Yeah.
That's interesting because 2012, probably, I don't know if it was like the early days of e-commerce, but e-commerce was not what it is today. It was not, but at the point it was. Then 2019, right before the big thing, right before the pandemic and the e-commerce growth acceleration. And then the last one was, it's very, very recent.
Yeah.
So what could you say the big difference is when you started all of those companies?
Well, so what is really neat about the year 2012 is that I've met so many other businesses where I'm like, well, you've been around a long time. How long have you been around? Like, I started in 2012. And then I meet another person. When did you start? 2012. A lot of people started businesses back in specifically that year. And you'll find that I read a study years ago about it, that the business has there's some sort of weird curve to it, but you'll find a lot of businesses you'll have a giant period of time that will drive it. Like, I'm sure COVID started a lot of businesses. People working out of their homes were like, hey, I always wanted to start this, the boss is paying me while I'm sitting at home, twiddling my fingers, might as well. So I'm sure it's a similar thing, but yeah, when I started in 2012, everything, at least with Orange Mud, which I make hydration packs for endurance runners and cyclists, and it's all direct to consumer. We did B2B, but it was, it was a goal is B2B, but it was really B2C, is that we knew that was going to be the premise. And so at the time, you actually could do a lot organically with Facebook, and it was great. Instagram, great. Twitter even was great. Twitter's a completely different landscape today. But yeah, at the time, I could sit on my couch on a Saturday and just engage with people. And which back then, Facebook would actually send you a lot of organic traffic. Like, we would post something when we only had 2,000 followers, 1,000, 3,000, and we'd get 60 or 80 comments. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. We're killing it. Well, everything organically was great. Again, you engage and you see sales come in on your Shopify app. I'm like, that's good. And then all of a sudden one day it was somewhere either 4 or 8, somewhere between 4 and 8,000 people. I don't remember what that threshold was, but I remember it distinctly because the second we hit that whole number, our engagement just disappeared. Then I was like, what happened? Because back then I paid a lot of attention to organic engagement. Right now, you could ask me what my organic engagement is, and I would say, I don't know, it sucks. And that's just the truth. And that is pretty much the truth with any brand. Like, it doesn't even really matter. You just have to have a basis for your PPC. But the basis is like, people click and like, oh yeah, these guys look like they've been around a while. Cool. All right. And then they respond to PPC. But back then it wasn't like that until you hit a certain size threshold. Now I think it probably starts out that way. It starts out bad. But yeah, the organic side used to be such a huge piece. And maybe it still is, but I think everyone has struggled with maintaining organic strength.
Two things I can say on that. One, I started the first version of my marketing agency back in 2013. I say, I remember is that, of course, back then Facebook, not even Meta, was very basic for e-commerce. There was only right column ads, I'm talking about ads.
I always hated those.
But definitely ads there. And I remember that organic, as you said, was everything. And brands were giving away things that today couldn't be like realistic for them. Like they were giving away trucks,
Yeah.
cars, like all kind of things in exchange of likes and
Right.
comments,
Yeah.
shares, right?
Yep.
Very long. And I, by the way, like a small thing, I come from the background of computer science. My first company was a software factory. And then through a tech startup, I ended up owning an agency after
Mhm.
so it's a story for another day. But the point is that I couldn't believe that I was reporting to my clients shares, likes, and
Yeah.
comments before I was delivering, web
Real
application.
results.
Like, is this working? Like, are we giving away like this? So yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
And thing I wanted to say, sorry, like the other thing is that on to your point about, that today, like the current state of organic, one thing I could say is that here on the podcast, I interviewed many companies with, I don't know, millions of followers or of YouTube subscribers. And there are two sides to the coin. One, organic reach is real for them. Of course, they have millions of people,
Mhm.
but the other side is that they require a lot of paid ads
Yeah.
still to they spend a lot. So it's not one or the other.
Yeah.
One works well and acts as social proof and, let's say, paying less in the
Mhm.
auction and all those stuff. Word of mouth, that's useful, but they do rely on it, even if they have millions of followers
Oh,
and
sure. Yeah, I mean, I just think that the amount of energy you spend in creating organic content, in many cases, for most brands, won't translate to revenue. It won't translate to a revenue that will offset all of those expenses. Again, there's some people that figure it out, but what I've seen, and we even see it with clients on the 7 Clay side. I've worked with a lot of influencers, and it's amazing to me. I'm like, God, what are you buying 1,000 hats? Like, who you buying these for? And or like you just bought 1,000 hats like 2 months ago. Where did they go? And like this one guy I was working with, he's like, well, it's just all my fans. I'm like, your fans are buying that many hats from you? I'm like, who are these people? He's like, well, they're mostly children, but with their parents' credit cards. I'm like, what? But but then all of a sudden you see somebody, they're thriving on a channel. They're thriving. Like, and we've seen this. This was probably 5 years ago. This one guy I'm talking about, and he was killing it as a cowboy influencer, basically, and he was killing it at the time. I believe it was YouTube, and then all of a sudden, oh no, it was TikTok at the time, and then all of a sudden TikTok changed their influencer strategy, and like he was making like I forget what he told me. It was something crazy. Like to me, it was crazy. He was a smaller player, but still making a few 100,000 a year off just being an influencer and posting, funny little videos. But then all of a sudden, TikTok changed everything, and he was making like 10,000 a year. It just went that fast. Overnight, it changed. And this is the crazy part about some of these influencers. This is what kids don't often understand. Is they see these guys like, these influencers driving all these fancy cars. That's what I'm going to be when I grow up as an influencer. I'm like, yeah, it might work. I would turn anybody off to it. But I've also seen the other side of the coin, which you don't hear people talk about, is that, man, I'm making a ton of money. All of a sudden, it's gone overnight. And like this one guy I'm talking about, he went from TikTok to YouTube Shorts, and then he's like, "Man, I'm back, and now I'm making a couple $100,000 a year." And that went on for a year or two, and then all of a sudden that turned off. And then now I don't know what he's doing. I think he may be done. But it's
we
it's a wild time with organic, and it is a ride. That's what organic and PPC is. It's a ride that you're constantly on, and you're just figuring out what portion of the bell curve you're on the roller coaster. And sometimes you're winning, sometimes you're really losing, and in the end, you hope to just come out slightly ahead.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is true and happens to everyone, right? Like
Mhm.
to brands, to creators, to agencies, to SaaS. The landscape, and even more in the last few years, changes rapidly
Yeah,
and to adapt because at the end of the day, we live in a rented land. And when it comes to
yeah,
advertising and all the stuff. But we all need it at the same time. So whenever something changes, or AI right now, why not? Right? It
mhm,
it changes the game for everyone. New
yeah,
players, new tools, new ways of doing things. And all of a sudden, I was saying before that I have a background in computer science. If my kid had asked me what he should study when he's old, if he asked me like 5 years ago, I would say I don't know, if you like it, let's say, programming, like learn how to code. It was the old saying, not that
Sure.
old, right? And now it's like they are, I have twins, a boy and a girl. They are almost 7-year-old,
Mm.
thankfully, because if they were like almost 18-year-old,
Yeah.
I would have tell them right now,
It's scary. Yeah. I don't know what
right?
my kids are 13 and 14. I don't know what to tell them. I tell them try hard in school and sports because at least maybe, if you maintain your competitive athleticism, you at least may be able to stand out from the crowd. But honestly, it is the wildest time right now with AI. And I love it. I mean, I love everything about it. I think it's fantastic, but yeah, I think most of us are like, maybe the trades. I'm not really sure. So yeah, it's a wild one. That's for sure.
Before going into the story of how you sort of those companies and talking more about what those companies are about, I know you're also a founder, a fractional CMO, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So how did you decide doing that? And with the conversation, I'm bringing this up right now because given the conversation we're having, what could you tell, founders listening to this, they should do? We talked about, organic, paid, growth. And, you started your company, like the first company early in their journey, like earlier than most people listening to this. And
Hmm.
the landscape, as we already briefly discussed, was very, very different. And
Yeah.
I personally love your take on this. That many founders they want to go fast.
Hmm.
They develop some fundamentals, and they just go as fast as they grew,
Yeah.
and they want everything right now. And maybe it's the world that we live in. But as a fractional CMO, what are the top things that the common mistakes that
Hmm.
brand founders are making right now?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's the one that people have probably always made, and now is probably one of the easier times to leverage AI, and even if you don't have the knowledge in it to largely fix a lot of it, but it's really understanding the whole pipeline. And you need to look at before you ever spend a dollar in advertising, you need to have your entire pipeline understood, documented, processes understood, clear, everybody on the team clear. And what I mean by that is, is your website complete? Is it adequate? Does it match your brand? Does it match? Do you have call to actions? And then whatever those call to actions are, contact form or buy here or whatever, is all of that set up with proper analytics and measurement in the back end? And then from a customer acquisition perspective, before you again spend anything on PPC, you need to make sure that you have a tool to be able to capture those customers on the back end, whether it's a CRM or a newsletter system or whatever. But those are, to me, the foundations that a lot of people struggle with, and admittedly, it's hard. Like I am really good at it, and I still fight daily with attribution and ensuring I have all my proper analytics set up because they change, and I can't explain it other than I could rant about Google for, I don't know, 6 months probably straight right now, but, uh, but Google is a freaking monster and you gotta make sure it's set up right in the back end, of your website so you can truly track once you start spending that PPC money that you are actually getting a return. It's easy to spend and then look at Facebook or Google and they're like, wow, I'm killing it. I got 170,000 web clicks last month, like for Orange Mud, for example. Or sorry, I had a spike, 170,000 clicks above normal coming into my website. And I was on vacation and I was coming back from vacation. My wife was driving and I'm looking at the analytics. I'm like, wow, that's strange. I sure didn't see sales go up that much. And so I dug into it. It was a bot. Why? I don't know. And I've never had a bot problem like that. Not at that level. I've known I had, you have bot issues. It's all over, but never to a spike like that that diluted my PPC return on Google, totally screwed up my campaign. So what I have to do, I have to go install bot. I put a software in, installed it, negates bot traffic on my Shopify site. I'm like, man, I've been doing this 14 years. You would think at this point I would be an expert in everything, but you're not. You never are. There's always something changes. Hence why you have to have the measurement. You have to have the measurement back end properly documented, and then you have to understand how to measure it. It's one thing to have somebody like, hey, set up all my measurements. Cool, but then you never look at it. You have to look at it and you have to understand what's happening. You have to constantly monitor to make sure the math matches what you're spending for. And then once you do that, life is significantly easier to make those decisions and to spot like, wow, God, there's this big spike. Okay, why is sales not going up? And some people be like, well, it's delayed attribution, whatever. I'm like, no, I don't get 170,000 web visits without converting a good percentage of them unless I totally screwed up in PPC ad spend. Or in this case, I think Google's auto applying things got a little eccentric and hit some bad guys. But but yeah, man, set up front to back, understand it all before you spend a penny, and then, go cautious and build it up. And it's slow, like building PPC. I get how everybody wants to move fast too, but I start slow, and I've spent millions of dollars in advertising on my own accounts. I'm not some agency that's like, oh yeah, I spent $100 million. I don't care about those people. You hear people talk about that. I'm like, I want to know like what happened to your business. Like, let's hear about your. And like for me, I've spent millions of dollars in my own business just with Orange Mud and PPC over the years, and I can promise you, I screw up all the time. And that's the first thing that everybody needs to understand. PPC, you're constantly testing, and you're going to fail over and over and over. But I have the math to back it up, so I can make the better decisions to fail less than the other guy. And that's my stick.
Yeah, that's really important. Like attribute a lot of people going crazy about.
Yeah,
I always tell them that of course they need to get it right, but that's only the tip of the iceberg because
yeah,
you know, come for some reason turned in I guess because it's easier, it turned into a numbers game.
hmm,
And this is numbers, and that's what many founders, from my point of view, at least the ones we work with or I speak with, some, not all of them, of course, are missing. They look at numbers. Those are typically like numbers are a lag measure, meaning that it's already late, whether
hmm,
they were good or bad, it already happened. Whatever
yeah,
you're seeing, they don't pay as much attention to the non-quantifiable things, the non-numeric things, like, I don't know, post-purchase surveys, review, calling customers,
yeah,
CX. It's like everything that you can, I don't know, if you have a community, building a community, engaging with your community, like knowing what your customers want, really what you don't want. Like recently, and this is a real case, a real story from a real brand. They came to us and it was like, what can we do to improve? And of course, aside from technical aspects or the technical advice, it's, hey, let me take a look at the reviews, post-purchase service, whatever you have.
hmm,
With AI is much easier and faster to do things. And no kidding, 72% of the purchases, this data said, were gift oriented. They were
wow,
gift giver different occasions. Their marketing didn't mention anything about gifting
yeah, wow,
at all.
yeah,
They were surprised. We were really surprised to see that as well. Seven-figure brand. They were starting out,
mm,
they didn't. So sometimes it's paying attention to what your customers are saying, speaking with your customers as well. And of course, working on the offer. Everyone talks about, diversity. But when they
yeah,
say that, they said product diversity, creative diversity. What about offer diversity? You
yeah,
have givers or by price point, depending if you have a wide range of products or not,
mm,
by occasion, but like different things, right? To offer diversity, creative diversity, getting the zero party data, these post purchase survey answers, reviews, and attribution as like the whole thing
mm,
to be able to grow in this tough
sure,
context. Not only
yeah,
social speaking, but also is more expensive to grow a brand. And so, yeah,
yeah,
we need to work harder than ever because the 2019, probably the other year you started your brand, in which probably up until 2018, I believe, like in which
mm,
you put one per meta and got 5, 10 out of it
yeah.
easily, easier. Those days are gone.
Now they're gone. Yeah, yeah. You're lucky to spend $1 and turn it into, 2. I mean, anymore. Yeah, it used to be always 3 was the minimum that I always set for return on ad spend, and anymore it's like, okay, fine, maybe 2.5, 2.4, 2.3. But it's tricky because there's still things that you can attribute in B2C, like Amazon sales. I know for a fact, I have a love-hate relationship with Amazon. We do really well on Amazon as a business, and but it's a frustrating platform, and it's frustrating because I know, well, for a lot of reasons, but I know I spend a lot of money on Facebook and Google ads that get that web traffic to our site, but then they'll go to Amazon and make a purchase, and I lose attribution. There's no, to my knowledge, and I would love for anybody to educate me on this, but there is no way to track the attribution of Facebook and Google, anything outside of Amazon PPC or organic, to Amazon sales. And so there over the years, because I recognize my own buying habits, which is how I shape a lot of my decisions, I know that I'll see an ad. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Let me see what Amazon has. Cause I know I don't have to put my credit card in there. I know I'm not going to get 8 trillion emails from the company or whatever. And I'll just go on Amazon. But I know that company, they're like, man, we're getting all these clicks, but we're not getting conversions. But some people have a better product for Amazon. Like it's a better purchase just to go there because you don't care to get product education or whatever. But ultimately, it's that sort of side, or that side of things, because of Amazon's growth in the market continually, that I also have made an acceptable level of return on ad spend to lower it to 2-ish. You know, I'm not happy about it, but I accept it because I know my return is likely higher than that. But it's just hard to measure it. But I know for a fact, I can tell you exactly where every single order in my business comes from. For the most part, of course, with Apple privacy and various different things, it's not perfect, but I have a server-side attribution. So I have quite accurate, I can look and see the channel history and where that every single order comes from. And with exception of, Amazon, but anything to my website, I can see it. And so I know all my PPC traffic is sending a lot of people to Amazon, but I have no way to measure it. And that is just so dang frustrating with that in general. And then of course, iOS changes, privacy across the board over the last couple of years has made it even harder. So it is still the Wild West, I believe, in PPC with what us brands are left dealing with in terms of measuring attribution.
Yeah. What would you do differently if you were starting a brand today? Like the same brand you started, like let's talk about Orange Mud.
Yeah.
It's started in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
What could you do differently if you started in 2026?
I don't know. I'd probably keep my day job. Maybe I probably would have stayed in my. So I'd probably be retired by now. But yeah, I mean, I think the B2C, the B2B business. I think that is still a very powerful market. And honestly, like I could start any B2B business tomorrow, and I can tell you a million different angles that I would approach it from. B2C, it has gotten way harder. I mean, it really has. If you're a brand that has your own products, we have been rife with problems over the years, from COVID and tariffs and duties and shipping increases of PPC and everything. It's really impacted the overall fulfillment costs. So if I was to start over with Orange Mud, I would, some of the things I would do differently is I would probably almost build it for Amazon. You have to build a brand. Otherwise you're just competing against whatever the cheapest thing is on Amazon. And that's just the reality. That's when you ask, why do you build a brand? Why do you build a website? Why do you build organic social media? It's because you're differentiating yourself and you're showing the reason why your product is better than whatever the low budget import is on Amazon, which that is a problem. That is a giant, in the United States, it is a giant problem, is the crap that's sold on Amazon. It's mostly a Chinese depository of low budget goods. And there's also good things. And I'm not going to say all Chinese is bad. There's just an incredible amount of suppliers, vendors, whatever, they come in, they dump low budget stuff, they get a bunch of bad reviews, they shut down, they reincorporate under a new brand, and they just keep repeating. But then you see brands like mine and many others that we make a very precise effort to only treat customers with 100% respect and to only manage problems and obviously provide solutions, everything with products. And you'll see those of us on there that have been around a long time and we have great ratings. But then you'll see like the Chinese guys and they'll get like, I've got 500 trillion ratings. You're like, there's no way you've had that many reviews on whatever it is. They bought a listing and Amazon's allowed so much falsity to happen for so many years. I know they're cleaning it up, but it's still ripe in the platform. So slight diatribe, but I say it because I want anybody to understand if you're going to start a brand, you have to look at what is your competition. The competition almost has to start on Amazon. So because that's ultimately where the market continues to scale, regardless of what you're going to do in organic. And so yeah, if I was to start Orange Mud again, I think I would have, or I would potentially make a lower budget price point item that's scaled back for simplicity. I wouldn't make it cheap, but I would scale back all the bells and whistles, and I would have more of kind of like your B range product that just is bare bones. And then I'd still make the premium products that I do without any exception. I always focus on quality. I don't care if I spend an extra $5 on a zipper. I don't want my products to ever fail. And that's been the relentless pursuit always, without exception, in any of my companies, is always quality first. But I would build the channel really almost completely on Amazon. But then again, all the product education, the branding, everything, you got to have a robust website for it. But I would have less SKUs. I would focus on higher AOVs, just because anything less than $100 AOV in today's average order value, in today's e-commerce market, is a brutal landscape for success. From a shipping alone item, I mean, just to ship something costs you generally $10. A single thing, almost anything, $7 to $12. Let's put it that way. And then of course, PPC conversion costs are almost always $15 to $30. So okay, so then you got your product costs, you have your overhead. There you go. You need at least $100. So I would probably have less items that are in the lower cost price point as well. So, but at this point, I have a well-rounded portfolio. I like having a big diverse mix of things. And of course, lower value items aren't always bad. You just have to focus on bundling and whatnot, which is hard to do on Amazon, but on your website you can. So, but yeah, long and short of it, keep your day job, or put on your big boy panties, man, and keep your day job until it is cash flowing well. And I did that. I waited 2 years, and we weren't cash flowing well, but I knew we were scaling, and I knew if I dedicated my time that I could scale it. And so I waited 2 years before I ever quit my job. But it allowed me to be sloppy and to burn money on ads, not knowing what I was doing as I went through those learning curves, and to make the mistakes that most all founders do. You take on these random, like, "Oh, yeah, this new software is amazing. It's 20 grand, but it's going to change your life." And then it doesn't do anything. And so it allowed me to burn a lot of money and still be able to live and learn from my mistakes. But I would do that same thing again. I would have basically not slept at all for 2 years, and like I did, and that I would definitely repeat if I was starting over from scratch.
Many founders do that, by the way. Many founders I know, at least, they keep their day job until they feel safe
Yeah,
to jump ships and
yeah,
go up the, let's say, sort of for the brand, and that's okay.
yeah.
So for first mod, which is the older brand of the ones you own, like what was growth like as you know the years went by? What are the things that you remember that were the key turning points, the key decisions you needed to make? Maybe it's steep growth or no team at all. Maybe it's, I don't know, starting a new channel, killing something that was already working to grow to the next level. So what were the things that you remember that were the key milestones in that journey?
Yeah, I would say that the key things, there were three. And so the first one is, we started in the very well, we were probably, I'd say, a year into it when I started our ambassador program. Technically, my social media manager, Holly, it was her idea, and she started it. But and I even told her, I'm like, I don't know, that's stupid. I don't know why anybody would want to do that. And I was wrong. And we had a lot of people that were big fans of our brand. They liked what we were doing, and they just wanted to have more input, and wanted to help. And so the ambassador team, we call them the dirt unit, they have been an essential growth for me over the years, due to the way organic traffic has changed over the years. They don't have the organic reach to help as much as they used to. But that being said, I still appreciate everything that they all do, because they're still, boots on the ground when they're at a race, and they're, repping our stuff, and they're going out for a run or whatever, having a good time. That of course still translates, to real organic. But in the beginning, where it was extremely valuable is for product feedback. It was basically my own frustrations that I was designing these hydration packs for. And and when I started, I really didn't think that I didn't have like a lot of ideas beyond my one product. And then one product led to another and another and another and another. But a lot of that came from the ambassador team saying, "Hey, Josh, I like this, but can you add pockets, or can you do 2 bottles, or can you do a bladder pack? Because I don't really like the look of the bottle packs. No offense." And it kind of continued to shape the business over the years. And I still get feedback from them, which I always listen to anybody that messages me like, hey, I have feedback. Okay, what you got? And I listen to every single person genuinely. And so, yeah, I would say the ambassador team, which is about 900 people, a little over 900 people, they have been super critical to our growth. And it started with like 12. And I was like, I don't know if we can do more than that. And then it got to like 30. I'm like, gosh, what should we grow it to? We have all these people that want in, but I don't know what to do. And eventually I'm like, there's no reason to tell people no. Like if they're a super fan, like why not let them in? Like it's stupid. So we've scaled it to almost 1,000 now. And
Wow.
so I would definitely repeat that process. That was a continual and has always been a great turning point piece for us. The other was, email automation. And I think a lot of businesses get this wrong where you ever buy a product and then you're like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to make this thing work. And with me, I designed backpacks. Like my first backpack was non-traditional, and I made a lot of products that I've invented that have never been something like them. And so that sounds great, but the problem is if you have a product backpack, everybody's seen backpacks, but it fits totally different than what the normal is. Well, then how do you educate people to that? So in the beginning, we had people that would buy our backpack and then they try it on in their living room and they're like, hey, I'm going to send this back. And I was like, well, did you actually run with it? And they're like, nah, but there's no way it'll work. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't design it for your living room. Will you do me a favor? Can you just go for a run, please? And then you run in it 3 times. If you still hate it, send it back. I want it, if it's going to come back, I want it to be disgusting. I ideally hand wash it first, but go sweat, make it nasty. And then people were like, hey, you know what? This is actually really cool. I'm going to keep this. Well, it was a really high problem, like a 30% return rate in the beginning, or at least people requesting to return. And that was critically a failure. And so I implemented, I don't remember which one, I went through like 7 of them, but I ultimately ended up settling on Klaviyo after time. But in the beginning, I tested some various different tools that were email automation tools. And automation now is more common, of course. But back then, this was like no one really, even Klaviyo, I remember telling them, like, I don't quite know what I'm doing. I've got this set up. Can you help me? They're like, nah, we don't really help you. I'm like, okay, well, you suck, but whatever. But they wouldn't help you back then. And it was just like, you just have to figure it out. And so, I was in there writing all these automations. And one of the ones, which, now seems quite simple, but it's not as simple as it sounds. But after you buy, say, the Hydro Quiver product, then I would say, have an automation that first would just say, hey, thanks. My name's Josh. I'm the owner of Orange Mud. If there's a problem, message me back. And it comes to my inbox, still does. And then after that, on day 3 or 5, I forget which one I did. I think I ended up adjusting to 5. There would be an email that goes out that says, okay, you just got this in, but watch this video. This is how you fit this. And because people often would try it on, they're like, it doesn't feel very comfortable. I'm like, yep, I didn't design it for your living room. So I would tell people this. And this is where psychology is fascinating, because it went from, if I have to wait for somebody to tell me that it fits weird, then I tell them, no, it's not going to feel comfortable. They're like, But if I tell you up front, hey, you're not going to like this fit, it's going to feel uncomfortable. But don't worry, when you go for a run, it's going to be better. But I'm sure you won't like it in the beginning. Then people want to tell you the opposite. People always want to tell you no, right? It's just kind of like default in our psychology. So what I found funny about that is I'd send that, and then people are like, no, this is actually great. I actually tried it at my house. It was really comfortable. I'm like, really? I know it really isn't. Like, it's kind of weird. It actually is a weird product in the beginning, and you have to get used to it. Anyway, once we started doing that, our returns basically stopped. I mean, it wasn't like they went to 2%. They basically stopped. I mean, we, of course, get them from time to time, but it's pretty much been 0. And then it stayed like that. And that was one of the greatest tools ever, because here, like, we found a mechanism, right? Organic, PPC, they're both converting to orders, but then people want to send them back. And then, of course, now over the years, we have the organism in itself, which is the market, and the market educates people on once a product is understood with how to wear it. And so that helps a lot now, but back in the day, that was probably one of the most critical pieces to a growth point of moving forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess 2 big ones there.
That's great. I mean, when you said a tool, and I see important that I see a founder who cares and who was able to find, through engaging with their customers, based on what you said before, why the high return rate with the 30%, as you said, is really, really high. And as a fact, I can imagine how you felt back then, right?
Yeah.
To get down to 0. It wasn't the automation itself. It was identifying what to do. And that's the not the key to success. I don't like those phrases, but I think it's a huge growth lever.
Yeah.
That's why before, like besides the numbers, it's understanding your customers because creating the ambassador program is genius. But may I ask you, how did you make it work? Because everyone listening to this might be wondering, I would love to make this happen, but how should I go about it in
Sure.
2026? Should I turn my customers talking about automations in the post purchase flow? Should I tell them we're in the thank you page, hey, become an ambassador?
Mhm.
And then next, how do I keep them engaged? What do I do? Do I give products away? How do you go about that?
Sure. Well, so we've ebbed and flowed a bit with this over the years, but it's the gist has always been at the same. And so the first step to bringing anybody into our ambassador program is that we have an ambassador application page on our website, and we basically say right on there, we keep it quite simple, like, hey, this is only for people that use our packs. We will not accept you if you've never bought one of our packs before, you've never used it, because ultimately I look at it as more of like a group of friends. I want to get everybody in that loves our product, that loves being going outside, and then the other piece is you've got to be somebody who inspires people. And it's not I'm not saying you have to be some miracle worker. I'm just saying you got to be a nice person. And so that's an important piece. And so we have you fill out a form. It's fairly basic, but it's basically, what's your social media handles look like? If we see you're some freaking psychopath and, not a positive influence to overall society, and if sure, I guess we're being a little critical there, but I mean, I look at all sides. I don't pick a political party or anything. I just like I don't care what your political beliefs are. My whole goal is you need to be a positive person because to me, I love to get people outside. I don't focus on professional athletes. I never have. No knock on them. They're great. It's their job doing what they do, but I care about common person getting them out and going for a run, going for a bike ride. And that's what this ambassador program has been about. So first, we have them fill out this information, show all that, we review it, we see, okay, these are positive people. I see they're posting pictures of social media, running on our packs. And I don't care if you have one follower or no followers. I mean, you don't even have to have a social media profile. We've got plenty of people that don't. But they're just people that love the sport and they love to do stupid things. Let's go run 100 miles, let's go bike 500 with 200, whatever, some big distance. And so we build it that way. And then to manage the team for anybody that's on Facebook, which most people are, we have a private group called the Dirt Unit. And within there, we invite everybody in once we do our application. We do it twice a year, and then we invite them in there. And then between myself and my A or ambassador manager, over the years we've kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit there. We'll do just various challenges and giveaways of fun product. Like, hey, go out and whoever runs the most this month or runs the most amount of hours this month or bikes, whatever, we'll do challenges that are fun. But, we offer discounts and some race swag or, race entries from time to time. We just try to just be human is all it really is. And the goal in there is just getting people to, do more, like outside. And then it's a benefit for me because they're wearing our packs, but it's a benefit I believe for all society to get more people outside and enjoy vitamin D and get some exercise. But that's always been the gist of it. I don't tell people you have to do so many races or you have to do so many posts. I've never had a command ever on that, and I won't. It's just not what I do. I don't kick people out and recycle every year. I don't make people reapply. I'm like, hey, you're in and you're in. But if you want to go run in another person's pack, just tell us. Like, if you don't want to use our Orange Mud packs anymore, that's fine. We'll remove you from the group. We don't want to waste your time and whatnot. But there's no hard feelings. Like it's okay. Like I want you to go outside. If you have another pack you like better, that's great. Go ahead. But but it's always been a very different program than what many are. Most of them are you need to come in, you need to do 3 posts per week, or you have to go X amount of events, or you have to do this, that, whatever. I don't have any regulations other than be a nice human, be good to others, go do stuff, and put a smile on. That's really it. So it is simple, maybe to a fault in a way, but I'm happy, but I can sleep at night knowing that I'm not forcing somebody to go do something for me just because they get a discount on our packs and gear. And so, it's to me has been a good way of managing them.
Great, great to hear. Human to human still works, and more
Yeah.
than ever, I say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a common theme I see across brands I know that are doing well. They, again, besides numbers, encouraging human relationships between, you know, the brand, the customers, and the community, it's something that goes a long way. Like I
Mhm.
always say, maybe on the storefront, it's not a Shopify brand. It's a brand that cares about people in a certain category. They're sharing something in common. In this case, these outdoor activities, and it's being honest about it, being genuine about it, caring,
Mhm.
and it comes back, and that's me. So one of the last questions I have for you, because I'll have 1,000, but I know we are almost on time, is about direct mail, because I know it's something that got my attention when you mentioned that, because it's something that I preach typically. I encourage brands to do it. Not all of them, the ones that I see that are a good fit, but it's probably an underutilized channel in an era of saturation and spam, email is so crowded, the ads expensive. We still need
Mhm.
them, but fine. But there's another channel that is getting smarter than ever. It's an old friend.
Yeah,
It's a channel that has always been there, but not as smart as it is right now for brands or
sure.
as it is right now. So how do you use that channel?
Yeah, so we have been using postcards for quite some time, and I will say to the naysayers of it, there's going to be a few, and now some people they look at it as you're burning paper and you're wasting natural resources. And I get it. I like everything in my designs. I use the least amount of packaging possible for all of my designs. I try to optimize materials so we don't waste extra materials. I'm not gonna say I'm some perfect green thumper, but at the same time, I do take that with I never create waste without really analyzing what's gonna happen, right? And so, I wanna minimize that impact as much as possible. So even with postcards, I still only send 4 by 6. I could go bigger and send bigger ones, and it may sound petty to a lot of people, but I know that is the one beef with postcards is that we'll have some people like, "Hey, man, I don't appreciate you sending this because you're wasting paper." And I'm like, "I get it, and I'm sorry, and we'll take you off the list." But that being said, in today's landscape, there's also success and failure, right? And so you have to look at it. Okay, where are my thresholds? And if PPC expenses continue to get more expensive, like for me, they're probably double on average what they used to be. That's not good. Like that hurts. So when I look at postcards, it is 1-to-1 open rate where email and PPC, there's a lot of pocus there and a lot of unmeasurable. But I know a postcard is a 1-to-1 open rate. If I send it to your house, you're going to hold it in your hand. It may be brief, but you're going to hold it in your hand. And I again, like I mentioned earlier, with how I always look at how I do things, and I know for me, and I know a lot of guys are the worst with this. You'll get a postcard, and you're like, yeah, this postcard's pretty cool. I'll say $20. I'm like, man, $20. It's one thing if you're buying, let's say you're going to buy something that's $200. $20 isn't that big of a savings. It's 10%. But at the same time, $20 seems like a lot more than 10%. And so you put something like that on a postcard. As a guy, I will set it here on my desk. I'm like, I've been meaning to buy that, for a while. I'll buy it. But what ends up happening, I get a whole bunch of impressions on there. I get a whole bunch of ad impressions over and over and over because it'll sit here on my desk. And I'll be like, I'll see it today, I'll see it tomorrow. And then like 3 months from now, I'll be like, I still need to buy that. And I've now looked at it 3 months straight, 90 days straight, multiple times throughout the day. I got tremendous ad exposure off a postcard sitting on my desk. And then I'll finally go and buy, and the dang thing's expired. Man, that ticks me off. So what ends up happening? I usually end up buying anyway. Well, I point that out because again, it's not just 1-to-1. It's a continual ad that is going to live on a lot of people's desk, wherever, refrigerator, wherever it may be. And so we've found really good success with it because it's a sales tool, it's a marketing tool. We don't do it often because again, I do try to minimize waste, but I do try to do it at key times a year when we know it's a big purchasing season, or holiday gifting, or it's hydration packs for summer, and we have it organized in a few different mechanisms. So we'll do one-off campaigns, which I do probably 3 a year. There's not very many. I should do more, in fairness, but I do 3 times at least a year, and then I do have win back campaigns, which are organized by last order date, and we do a 90, a 180, and 365. And after that, then you fall off. But it synchronizes to Shopify, and so this is on autopilot. So it's a drip. Every day we have postcards that are being mailed out every single day. It costs me 58 cents or something like that, and or 64 cents. But every single day we do have the win backs being activated, and well, yeah. So I guess it's just all those. We have 9. I believe it's 9 or 10 different win back campaigns that are based upon a variety of different criteria. Because you can even do upsells, and so like let's say like my transition wrap. It's a changing talent seat cover. Anybody can use it. If you sweat, your soccer, your baseball, your football, your track, cross country, trail runner, mountain biker, whatever. Anybody who sweats, if you just mow your lawn and you're gonna go set your car afterwards, the transition wrap is awesome because it keeps your seat clean. It takes all your nasty sweat from your body and puts it on the towel, and you wash the towel. It doesn't put it in your car. And so with that product, it's phenomenal, and we know that people love it, and we've sold millions of them. And then so when somebody buys one of our hydration packs, but they may not know that we have the transition wrap, it's a perfect cross sell. So you can use it for cross sell campaigns. You can say, hey, I saw you bought this pack 30 days ago. I'm going to send you a little postcard on this. It's transition wrap because you may not be aware that we have it. You may not want to go back to a website again. Maybe you bought it on who knows what. So there is that tool. And then now we actually just went live today with, I think it's called Mail Match. And so this is, or see, it's Mail Match, Site Match, whatever it is. Basically, this is a tie-in to traffic that comes to our website that doesn't convert, but it actually will match to an address and send. So it is another way of leveraging, today's fancy tech to be able to send a postcard out that one's new, and I don't know how it'll convert, but I do know that we do use that for email also, which does convert. So I assume that'll do well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, well, this is great. I know some other tools as well that do the same. They identify anonymous traffic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the emails, and
Yeah.
those are pretty fun. It's pretty cool what you're doing with direct mail. I think that on one hand, you can of course do, as you mentioned, something more intrusive than email, way more intrusive than email. People hold something in their hand,
Yeah.
right? On the other hand, you can also use it for things that email wouldn't work well, because sometimes it's a sign of appreciation, depending on the message, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
as you said, it's highly likely that they will open it. So not only standing out, but showing appreciation for somebody, for example, that have purchased from your brand a few months ago goes a long way to encourage them to do certain actions besides buying again. Of
Sure.
course, want them to buy again. But as you said before, sometimes people wants to, it's like going by the negative and not by the positive. As you said, like getting the no and getting them to say, no, no, yeah, I want to do it. There's a book I love on that. It's called Never Split the Difference.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, like leading with no, which is quite the opposite of many sales books.
Mm-hmm.
We try to get as many yes as you can. This is like, no, it's like a lead FBI negotiator expert, a former negotiator. And it's an amazing book, not a sales book, but it has some implications in selling.
Yeah. Yeah. I've read it. It's great.
And now direct mail, as far as I know, like this is recent, like from the last few months, I believe, earlier this year, they implemented some prospecting features with
Yeah.
AI. So I don't know about that. Never tested it. Have
Yeah.
you?
Mine's going live. It was one of I just released both Mail Match and Site Match. And yeah, so that is more of a prospecting
That's the name for their feature for that company.
for their feature. Yeah. And so, yeah, so we'll see how that works. It's a wild card, but there's basically the way, like the way the anonymous web trackers work is they match your IP address is what they're doing. And then they match your IP address to the giant websites. I mean, just for people, if you don't want on these things, don't sign up for like some of these giant publishers, because that's what's happening. That's where this whole industry has come from. And I hate getting spam email. And so it's something that we only do, I can, we all do the everything per above board email rules. But these are rules that are established and passed by who knows who, politicians or somebody. But basically, you go to some giant website like maybe Yahoo. I don't know. I haven't read the specifics for a while, but you sign up for these newsletters. Like when you agree to our terms of service, you're agreeing to allow us to resell your information to people. Basically anybody. Essentially is what it is. And when you do this with some of these giant websites, and then now all of a sudden these companies can charge us money to say, hey, I can tell you exactly who that guy is based upon their IP address, and it's this person's information, probably. And here is, everything. You can mail them a postcard, you can send them an email. That's how the anonymous web traffic is working. Because we have people that ask, how did you get my info? I was just on your site and you sent me an email and I didn't approve it. I'm like, well, I mean, yes, you didn't, but you actually, well, I mean, not through our normal channel, but you did, and it's through this channel, and this is because why? And then people are usually like, okay, I got it. You realize all your information is sold, sadly, in this world, yours and mine both. And so it's a weird technology. I have mixed opinions on it, but I can say it works. And again, in today's crazy landscape, you have to constantly test, because like you talked about in the very beginning, we rent all these platforms. We don't own anything, even email. People, like, the argument's always been in marketing over the years, like, you own email, but you don't own Facebook or Google. I'm like, you really don't even own email. What are you talking about? Like, we pay a whole bunch of money to these guys as the Klaviyo's of the world, or whoever. I don't use them anymore because I got sick of their crazy rates. But you first spend the money on that platform, and then you're praying to God that your deliverability rates are going to be good. And that's only a part Klaviyo thing. That's it's what does Google feel like? What does Apple feel like? All of a sudden, now you're all going to the promotions tab. Again, you don't own them emails. You only rent them. Everything in this world is a rental. So you're constant, and most things in D2C have evolved to that. The market has learned how to manipulate that. So again, what do? We test. And that's what we do. We just have to constantly test. Facebook is no different. Like, some people that have complained about, like, the anonymous web traffic triggering an email system. I'm like, how's it any different if you talk about toothpaste and then Facebook serves your ad because it heard you saying you need to go buy some toothpaste through your iPhone? That's even more creepy to me. At least you were on my website. Like, you came to browse. So there's a lot of craziness in today's digital landscape, right, wrong, or indifferent. But again, I comply with all the laws and rules that are out there. We're 100% above board, and if one changes, we will too. But for anybody listening that's a consumer, that's like, that's how those guys send me those emails. Just so you know, this is what our landscape is right now.
Josh, this was definitely an interesting conversation. We went through a lot, and we have a lot of pending things to discuss as well. But again, I want to be respectful with your time. So for everyone who wants to, follow you online, if you are online, or follow the brand, where can they go?
Yeah, you can. If you search my name, you'll probably find me. I think I even have a personal site that has everything. Josh Sprague. I think it's Josh Sprague, maybe Josh Sprague Info. But anyway, if you search me, Josh Sprague Orange Mud, you'll find me on LinkedIn or wherever. And then, of course, orangemud.com, orange like the fruit, mud, MUD.com. And 7 Clay is my other branding business, all spelled out. As I'm easy to find.
So for everyone, watching this or listening to this, why not? Thank you first off. If you like this, please put a thumbs up, leave a review, subscribe to our channel if you're on YouTube as well. And the most important thing, at least for me, is that you share this with someone that could really need this, could really use this to grow their business or to help other businesses grow as well, because that's why I do it, at least. So thank you again. And thank you, Josh, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.